All right, back to the album. Saturn Returns is really what's next on my list
Yeah.
because it goes end of the world where you're questioning things, into buy, into don't want to break up again. And then there's this change, this shift sonically too, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But there's still disco elements that come through the rest of the album. Why was that moment the right place for an interlude, a shift?
For an interlude?
Yeah, because that's what Saturn Returns really is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's a really tiny interlude, but I think it just sort of Eternal Sunshine feels like a wake up moment, sort of like a pivotal moment in the story. And the Saturn Returns coming right before it, just kind of with the wake up, it tells you to wake up. I don't know. It just felt like setting up the rest of the album in a way. I don't know.
Who is speaking?
Diana Garland. She is an astrologist. My dear friend Will Loftus, who choreographed Yes and, who I met on Wicked. He's one of the associate choreographers. When we met, it was like the most cosmic collision. And he sent me that vocal that he like chopped and put together. And he was like, this made me think of you. And then Ilya put orchestration under it. And I was like, I hope it's okay that this is going on my album. And he was like crying.
What does astrology...
And I was crying too.
The role of astrology in your life has meaning, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, even tarot cards. When I went to the
Yeah,
studio, you gave me a reading. You've been doing readings on set.
Yeah.
What do you look to astrology for? Is it understanding of what you're going through? Is it an understanding of what will be?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a tool to help us hear what we need to hear sometimes and kind of look forward with hope and awareness, and also reads us for filth sometimes. Sometimes we need to hear it, and just looking to something bigger than us to kind of help us make sense of it. Does that make sense?
Totally. By the way, if you don't know what it is, and we explained it, in part one.
I'm sipping a hidden coffee.
Go ahead.
Go on.
Go ahead.
Talk.
It is when you're born, Saturn's in a certain position, and it takes 29 and a half years for Saturn to return to that position. And when it returns to that position, you are faced with deep awareness of oneself and a confronting of patterns, correct?
Yes.
And a wake up.
Course correction, one would say.
Course correction. When you think, when do you know for certain that it's the title of the album?
Well, I've always loved that movie since I was a little girl.
Yeah.
I am a huge Jim Carrey fan. I always have been. And I was always sort of attracted to the idea of writing a song around that. But I think once I realized that the rest of the songs were kind of forming a story that felt kind of similar to Eternal Sunshine, where there's sort of this like cycle, this, that
Totally.
everyone's trying to break, it just fell into place.
Do you believe in that? Like, is there something to when you're making music, just letting go to the universe and or wherever your brain will go and just seeing what happens? Because we have like artists come on the show and like there's a few different schools of thought, but like one artist may say like I write 100 songs and that's how I become a good songwriter. And then Chris Martin comes on a bunch of times and preaches about how the universe gave him Viva La Vida and he just like opens himself up and it just beams from the fucking sky.
I love that.
But is there an in-between anywhere where like craft
Absolutely.
meets the universe?
Yeah. I'm somewhere in between. I've learned, I don't know, I sit somewhere between being a literal witch, I'm not kidding, and being like the most realistic, cut, dry, like,
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. I feel like I'm my most productive when I am open and also when I pretend no one's ever going to hear it. That's when I'm my best, I think.
At what point in the process do you have to be reminded that people will hear it?
When it's over.
Got it.
And then I backtrack many steps and I clean things up and I figure it out. Just kidding.